So the Far From Home trailer came out the other day, and I've got some thoughts. I'm not going to be talking about the trailer itself mainly because I already did a reaction to the first trailer, and I want to talk about Mysterio and the possibility of the Marvel Universe being split into a multiverse in this film. They obviously mention in the trailer that he apparently comes from another world, another universe, which this isn't the first time we've seen people from alternate universes coming into the, I'll refer to as the 616 MCU. In Endgame, we saw an alternate version of Thanos, Nebula, and Gamora coming in from an alternate universe into the 616 from the past, and that was one of my biggest issues with that movie. And if you've seen my review, it went up the other day, you'll know that I wasn't too pleased with how they handled the portrayal of Thanos or the timeline in general. I thought it was really odd. They explain in the trailer that the snap that happened, and they just refer to it as the snap, so I'm not sure if it's the snap from Infinity War or one of the two snaps from Endgame, because there's been 3 snaps at this point, and they don't explain which one specifically caused this to happen. But apparently there's now a rift in the quote-unquote multiverse. It is an interesting idea, although I think we already saw enough of that in the recent animated movie, Into the Spider-Verse. I'm going to be honest, I'm not too pleased about this. I'm not too optimistic, because although it could be interesting and it could set up other things, I think it's probably too ambitious. And I do think it could end up, it's so risky, it could end up damaging the MCU completely in the next few years if they don't handle it well. People are theorising that the reason why they are doing this is because they want a quick gateway to bring in the Fox characters, specifically the X-Men, because for them to do the X-Men in the MCU, they would have to explain where the mutant gene and mutant kind have come from, or where the whole time, because we haven't seen or even heard of one mention of them in any of the previous films. The only mutant characters we have seen in the MCU, and they're technically not classified as mutants in these movies, are Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. These versions of the characters were explained to get their powers through other methods, so they are technically not mutants in these movies, but in the comics they are. I don't think they should go down that route though, if I'm being honest. But there's also theories out there speculating that this is actually Sony's attempt to take Spider-Man out of the MCU, because now, after seeing how successful Venom and the Spider-Verse movie did, Sony are a lot more confident in building up their own cinematic universe, which they attempted to do a few years ago but failed completely. And they're now planning on taking Spider-Man back and having him in the quote-unquote Venom verse at the moment. Now, I'm not too optimistic about this either, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the MCU version of Spider-Man. But at the moment, the contract that Marvel has with Sony expires after this next film, so there might be a third Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, but it might not take place in the MCU, and that is a possibility. I don't know if they will go down that route, they'd be very desperate to, but it could happen. Overall, I really hope this isn't the case, for several reasons. One of the big ones is we really don't need to see another big event, and bringing in the multiverse really seems like they want to have another big event, such as Secret Wars, and I really think they should focus on more small scale movies for the next few years, but they really should scale it down again for a while. Bring it back to like phase 1 or early phase 2. But here's the real thing, I think this might be misdirection on the part of both Marvel and Sony, because this film features Mysterio, who I believe is going to be the main villain of the film, even though they're portraying him as he's not. Mysterio is a character that is well known for using manipulation and illusions. He uses these illusions to trick his opponents. So I believe that the Mysterio in this film is going to be like the comic version of the character, and that the Mysterio we see in this film isn't actually from another world or universe, and that he is only using that as an excuse to try and gain the trust of Spider-Man as well as S.H.I.E.L.D., so that he can ultimately defeat them down the line. Perhaps there's something he wants. I'm not entirely sure. We will see in the course of the film. But I don't think he's being honest. I think he is lying because there's something he wants. And he needs to trick Spider-Man and S.H.I.E.L.D. and whoever else into trusting him so that he can get what he wants. There's also rumours that he might now have possession of the Reality Stone, which would be incredibly interesting because that would prove that the Infinity Stones, or at least some of them, did survive and are still out there somewhere. And I think it would make sense for him to have the Reality Stone. It would be really interesting to see, but that might just be speculation. Overall, though, I think that Sony are setting things up, and I have been for a while, since Homecoming was announced. I think they've been setting everything up for the Sinister Six to appear in a future Spider-Man movie. And Mysterio is, of course, one of the original members of the Sinister Six, one of the classic members that is usually always there. They also had the Vulture in Homecoming, who is also another important member of the Sinister Six. So I believe that they are setting them up for a later movie. If that is the case, they need to show Mysterio as being an actual villain. What other better way is there for Mysterio to show his powers and how powerful he can be, but also to show how sinister and how dark his intentions really are? It would be shown in a really interesting fashion, I think, if they went down that route. So I'm hoping they do. I really hope this film turns out to be, it's all an illusion. Mysterio's trying to trick Spider-Man, and later on in the film, you know, there's going to be a big plot twist where it's revealed that he is actually lying to him, and that he's not from an alternate universe. You can maybe save the multiverse things for later. I think it's way too soon to do it now. Save it for later. That's what I'm hoping is the case, but we don't know. I could be wrong, but this is my theory on what is really going to happen. So that's my theory. Thanks for listening to this video. If you've got anything you want to say, anything you want to add about it, if you agree with the theory, give the video a like, I suppose. If you disagree with it though, please comment down below and explain why you disagree with it. If you've got any theories of your own, please put them down in the comments as well, because I'd love to hear them. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on what Sony and Marvel are doing with Spider-Man at the moment, and the MCU in general. And I'll see you guys next time.